So guys, there it is, the Overkill Solar Pathfinder BMS. And it says up here, this is the very first BMS designed and manufactured by Overkill Solar. We have been working on this design for several years now, and we have been 100% focused on it, since our old BMS supplier pulled the plug on the old models. Here, you may have seen it on the Overkill Solar website. There is no Overkill Solar BMS anymore as such. No redesigned or upgraded JBD BMSs anymore for quite a while. And now the Pathfinder BMS is the only BMS they are actually selling. And thank you very much for this great sticker. It looks amazing. Guys, welcome back to the Overkill Garage here in sunny and hot Australia. Super last day of winter today, and we had like again 25, 26 degrees. Nothing, 0% cloud, pure sunshine for days now, but now it's afternoon and the shading is slowly creeping in here. But this doesn't matter because we want to have a look at the Overkill Solar Pathfinder BMS today. At least we want to have the specifications and talk about it, what this BMS can do. So, and let's have a look at the hardware first. What do we actually get with the Pathfinder BMS from our friends at Overkill Solar? So this BMS consists of a stack of 3 PCBs. Actually, it's 4 PCBs. If you look very closely, you can see this is a double layer PCB here. And the bottom layer, let me bring on some light here. And the bottom layer consists of hundreds, I would say hundreds of SMD soldered resistors, because this is the passive 1 amp balancer. The whole PCB is the balancer. And for heat dissipation purpose, this is a double layer PCB down here. It is just to get rid of all the excess energy from the passive balancer. The PCB in the middle contains all the MOSFET transistors. You can see a whole row of MOSFETs down there. And interestingly, they don't have any heatsink, right? They are just air-cooled. And this interestingly shaped and laser cut PCB here at the top contains the display, all the buttons, and also the ESP32 chip. This is right down there. So obviously we have the 2 M10 terminal studs left and right. One connects to your battery, most positive, and the other one connects to your load and chargers. We've got connections for Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, as well as a USB-C connector, 2 connectors for temperature sensors, a wake and reset button, the connector for the balance cables. On this side we've got 2 LEDs for charging and discharging, and a discharge switch. And if you connect these 2 pins, discharge will actually turn off. This is especially very useful and handy if you frequently connect inverters to the BMS. You just close the switch between these 2 contacts, discharge is off, you connect your inverter and turn the BMS back on. More about this feature later. Then we've got 2 more LEDs here. One is an overload and the other one is the active pre-discharge light. Yeah, and of course here at the front the tiny OLED display, 4 buttons for directions, OK, yes, no or back button. And an interesting feature is this connector here for the balance cables. So at first glance it looks like a normal terminal connector. You've got cells from 0 all the way up to 16, and once connected it plugs into the BMS and connects all your battery cells and terminals to the BMS. But on the second look it says, hold up, wait a minute, did you press test on the balance connector? Red LED indicates fault that can let the magic smoke out. So they are actually warning that you have to check your balance cables, as you usually should with all BMSs anyway. But this one is a very special terminal adapter here. It has a little test button over here, see that? So once you connect your battery and you press the test button and you get a red light, you have connected your battery terminals in the wrong way. But if you get a red light here, something is wrong, don't plug it in, otherwise the magic smoke comes out of this BMS. So that is a pretty cool feature. We haven't seen this at all with any of the other BMSs so far. Yeah, so there you have it. This is basically everything we have here. I like actually the fact that I have printed the manual how to connect this BMS to a 4S battery as an example on the back of the BMS, so you can never lose it. Designed in Florida, March 2025. Programmed in Canada, eh? Made with parts from cheaper countries. Super rare these days that you find a product made in the US with a Canadian flag on it. Okay, let's have a look at the 46-page long documentation for the Pathfinder BMS. I mean, come on, we're always complaining that manufacturers of these BMSs don't provide any documentation, and now they are doing it. 46 pages, all written in perfect fine English, American English. And now we are saying, oh, 46 pages is far too long, far too long. Let's, I've got a summary here, it won't take long. So obviously the features, 3 to 16 cells, minimum 7 volts, up to maximum of 64 volts, yeah? 170 amps continuous duty current rating. Advanced state of charge tracking, yeah? Very good, very good. Built-in OLED user interface, do-it-yourself focused design with positive side switching, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, USB interface with free monitoring apps. This BMS works with the usual Overkill app 2.0 or later. So it can operate battery voltage up to 64 volts, 170 amps, 100% duty cycle. It gets over-the-air firmware updates, yeah? This is very nice. It also connects to Home Assistant through MQTT and has several status LEDs, which you have already seen. So here it says again, base plate. This is the bottom layer basically with a 1 amp passive balancer. Main board. It has the Texas Instrument, whatever that means, chip, fuel gauge, chip, MOSFET. This is the MOSFET layer, and then the top layer is the one with the ESP32 microcontroller, USB, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi. And of course, as we have seen, it has this balance wire terminal board, it's called, with a test button. So that's a cool feature as well. All right, I went through all the 46 pages already. I've got a bit of a summary here. So these are all the drawings and everything. Yeah, there is a DIN rail mount available. It basically clips into these ears. So there's nothing in the box here. Obviously, this is an optional feature this BMS has. 170 amps at 22 degrees Celsius. As I said before, that's 100% duty cycle. Everything warmer to be determined. So obviously the current goes down the hotter the BMS gets. 400 amps maximum surge current for 10 seconds and 1000 amps short circuit detection point. Total resistance all FETs on 0.3 milliohms. Balancer current mainboard 43 milliamps plus the passive balancer on the bottom layer board of 1 amp or 1.17 amps at 4.2 volts for lithium-ion batteries. So this product is not RoHS compliant. It contains leaded solder. Avoid direct contact with food or ingestion. Do not eat the BMS. May cause cancer in California, just like everything else. Whoa, 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 whoa. You've got now close to 40 million customers less. Do not dispose in landfill in Europe. Wash hands after handling the circuit board to reduce exposure to lead. Okay, let's get to some of the happier features. So as we just found out, this BMS has 2 passive balancers, one 40 milliamp on the main board, and here on the balance board it is 1 amp passive balancing. So the default setting is maximum of 4 cells can be balanced at the same time. This is for heat distribution, because as we have seen, there's no heatsink in these boards here somewhere, anywhere. And the balanced start voltage for lithium iron phosphate is a 3.1 volts, which is far too low. I hope we can change this setting later in the parameters somewhere. A high current active balancer option is planned, but is not yet available. So there might be something coming in the future for this BMS as well with an active balancer. Okay, cell count, setup, and balance wire connections. This is what we are already seen with this connection board here. We've got this little button here on the side, which you can push once all your batteries are connected. And it tests your terminal connection to the battery for consistency. So it makes sure that all the cells are connected in the right order. And only if the green light appears, you connect this one then with the cables to your BMS. So that is a very good feature. It does automatic cell count detection. It says here, before plugging in the balance wire connector, press the test button. And then you get this nice display here with a skull. Permanent failure, wiring fault. Don't panic, fix wiring, then reboot. Okay, there are different terminal connectors available. 16S, 8S, 4S, 6S, Tesla module, pre-wired, 6S, everything you ever wanted. And here again is a wiring example. We can clearly see that we are switching the positive through the BMS and the negative is directly connected to cell number 1 negative. And we have more examples here. There's a 24 volt NMC, 6 cells in series. And what I've found as well is, yeah, something like this here. Yeah, 3 cells in series. You have to make this jumper bridge between cell number 3 and cell number 4, or terminal 3 and 4 here on the BMS. And we have seen these constructs before, like these ones here, yeah, where we have connected one cell to several inputs of the BMS. If you remember all the way back, like 3.5, 4 years back, when we wired the QUCC BMS with a big contactor, this had similar features and we had to combine several of the terminals for the BMS and connect them to one terminal, to one cell, because the QUCC could handle 24 cells and we had only 16 connected. And I think it was the same with the Heltec BMS as well. One cable comes from the battery and connects to several contacts on the BMS. So we've got an M10 by 1.5 terminal. These are these huge massive studs here. And somehow they are pressed onto the PCB, which gives them a higher strength than anything else, it says here. Yeah, and then we come to the interesting part here, state of charge measurement and learning cycle. So this interesting feature with this BMS is when you connect it the first time to your battery, yeah, it doesn't know anything about the state of charge. But when you start charging and discharging it, then it actually displays a confidence level of state of charge percent. And it says this here something, yeah, here in the display, yeah, SOC confidence 100%. So it is 100% sure that you are on 100% at the moment. Well, this is pretty clear then. So it gives the estimation a bit of weighing. And obviously, even without this learning cycle, it learns over time how your battery works, how much power goes in, how the voltages go up and down, and it gets more confident the longer you use it. Yeah, but it is really recommended to do this learning cycle here. So it also says here in the display that the learning cycle has started, and the chemistry is lithium iron phosphate, obviously. And then it has a lot of other parameters. I'm not sure how this information all fits on this tiny display. I mean, this is big as 2 of my thumbnails. And it has some other indications here on this display, an ITEN impedance track algorithm enabled. The last open circuit voltage measured can be used to update measured capacity. Resistance table updates are disabled. Full charge has been detected and state of charge has been set to 100%. The rate of change in voltage is low enough to record an open circuit voltage measurement. Rest. Okay, whatever this all means. Yeah, so, and the learning basically between 0% and 100%, it uses the discharge termination voltage. At the beginning I thought this is the over voltage protection, but no, this is a different setting, obviously a different parameter, which we can hopefully set ourselves. And once it reaches the discharge termination voltage, it goes to 0. And once it reaches the charge termination voltage, it goes obviously to 100%. Yeah, here you can see it again. Charge termination voltage 100% and discharge termination voltage 0%. Yeah, 3 volts, 3.5 for lithium iron phosphate. At this stage, I'm not sure if we can change them, but I hope we can. So here it says the state of charge measurement is reset to 0 when the discharge termination voltage is reached, and is reset to 100% when the charge termination voltage is reached. Yeah, these values are not adjustable as of the first firmware release. So obviously it handles it only between 3 volts 0 and 3.5 100. Well, I never charged to a 3.5 volts, so this BMS would never reset to 100%. But we will see, maybe we have an upgraded firmware already here and we can adjust these parameters. We will find this out later. Okay, and then we have the Wi-Fi connectivity here. So the BMS comes with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connection. If you have Wi-Fi enabled and connected to your home network, it will automatically download over-the-air updates. If you don't want to connect it to Wi-Fi and use the automatic over-the-air update, you can also download the firmware and use the USB-C connection on the BMS to update the BMS manually. You can turn off the radio, but I think it is for both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi at the same time. So you cannot select to have one on and one off. It's all or nothing. With the over-the-air firmware updates, you can select auto update, always ask, or never check. Stable only or beta. Yeah, it connects to the GitHub website. Down here, yeah. Yeah, that's the Overkill Solar GitHub website. And it downloads alpha, beta, or stable firmware versions. Then we have the MQTT Home Assistant connection. At this stage, I'm not sure what kind of entities it actually exposes to Home Assistant. So, and the BMS also comes with a pre-discharge function. It says here the pre-discharge circuit will engage when conditions have been met. It connects the battery to the output via a 12.5 ohm resistor and monitors the system voltage until it rises to a sufficient level to prevent a damaging inrush current, at which point the main FET array will switch on. I think this is what most BMSs have these days. They can determine if it is a short or if it is an inrush current into an inverter. LED indicators, as we have seen, wake, reset, status, charging, discharging. Manual output controls, you obviously can disable and enable the MOSFETs for charging and discharging. There's also a UART connector. It says somewhere the API is not yet available. Data logging, it can create a CSV file with all these information. And here all the parameters and all the settings again. Unfortunately, it doesn't say if we can change these parameters or which parameters we can change. So we have to wait until we connect the BMS and find out ourselves. Interchangeable parts. This is a very interesting feature of this BMS. You can actually replace all these 3 different PCBs. So I've never seen that before. Okay, how to connect the balance wires, question FAQ, units conversion. And here at the end, this was actually a pretty cool site, the last page in the documentation. Just let me zoom out a little bit. This explains all the menus you can actually select through this tiny display on the BMS. And it walks you through, so you never get lost. You can always find yourself and then go left, right, up, down, okay, back. And it explains and shows you all possible features on the display here. So that's pretty cool, actually. Okay, this is on page 46 now. Quick summary of this whole documentation here. I linked this down below. It is on the Overkill website as well. So, my friends, after looking at the hardware and specifications of this Pathfinder BMS here, we want to actually connect it now. Of course. And last night I already had a play with this BMS, and I must tell you it was not as easy to connect this 4S lithium iron phosphate battery to a 16S connector. Because when I started and connected everything, I put all my cells, cell 1, 2, 3, 4, as you usually would do, pressed the button, everything was green. Plugged it in and got this skull straight away. So something was not quite right with the cabling, but I couldn't figure out what. So it says in the manual that cell number 16 needs to be connected to the most positive of your battery. So I connected this one here, the last one, to the main positive of the battery. Pressed the button again, everything was green. Plugged it in, skull. The crossed bones and the skull again. And it said in the manual, when you have more balance wire connectors than you have cells, you need to ensure that the last cell is connected as 1516. This is cell number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Press the button, green light, plugged it in, nothing. Skull. So I kept reading, and it said, you need to ensure that all the free terminals of your balance connector need to be bridged and connected to one of the sides. Not both, one of the sides, obviously only. And this is the state I'm in right now. Yeah, with all these wire bridges, I've connected all these free terminals together, and the last one is actually connected to over here. And when I press the button, I get a green light again. Okay, let me actually take out this last bridge and show you what has happened. Alright, so yeah, we press the button, we get a green light, nothing red, and we plug it in. Connect the positive of our battery, green light comes on, everything looks good. It starts up, Pathfinder BMS. And there we get the crossbones and the skull wiring fault. Red light over there, not correct. Okay, and also let me show you when I swap 2 of these cables here. And there you can already see the red light. Yeah, there it is. I don't even have to press the button. As soon as I connect the cables, I get a red light. Reverse polarity between these two cables. Wrong connection, so don't connect it to the BMS. So I've then connected all these 3 terminals here with each other, and the last one is connected to cell number 3 positive. So all of the 16 connectors are in use. And this problem only occurs if you have a 16S connector or a larger connector than your cell count is, and then you have to bridge all these empty terminals together and connect them to one side, either cell number 3 or cell number 2, it doesn't matter. Usually if you order such a BMS, you would order the correct connector for your cells. So if you have a 16S battery, you order a 16S connector, right? Then you have all 16 terminals connected anyway. If you have an 8S battery, you order an 8S connector. But obviously you can connect a 4S battery to a 16S connector by doing this. So it's not super straightforward, but eventually it will work. All right, let's plug this one in and see what happens. There you go, green light. Pathfinder BMS. It says detected 4 cells, type lithium iron phosphate. Hang on, I'll switch to the other camera. All right, I think this is as good as it gets. It's very, very hard to record this screen here. It's super glossy. You can see all the light reflections and not easy to focus with the camera. So it says now, after connecting and turning on, detected 4 cells of type lithium iron phosphate. Is this correct? And then you press the OK button here on the right. Flashing. So it's loading all the parameters now. Initializing BMS. There we go. So if we press the down button, we can cycle through all these screens. And one of them should have, yeah, here we go. Yeah, and here it shows us only the 4 cells now, because we have bridged all the other ones and it knows it's a 4S battery. And believe me, these numbers are even tinier with your bare eye. All cell voltages, sum, and so on and so on. Now, learning cycle. So we are on firmware version 0.3 stable, built in July 28th, 25. Wi-Fi disconnected. Okay, let me connect. Can I not connect to the Wi-Fi here somehow? No? Yes? No? Bluetooth status, none. I thought I can change these settings here with the buttons here as well, but obviously not. No, I cannot go. How do I set up Wi-Fi? Do I have to press and hold? Do I have to read the manual again? Really? Okay, you know what? Let's have a look in the app first. This is version 2 point something. So far all the batteries are showing up, which have a JBD BMS, but nothing saying Pathfinder. Scanning for devices. But it says here Bluetooth status advertising. So it should be, here it is, Pathfinder BMS. Okay, I'm very excited. Let's log in. Discharge under temperature, charge under temperature. Oh, okay. Because I haven't plugged in the temperature sensors yet. And we're already charging with 30 milliamps. How does that work? There's nothing connected. So what can we see here? Obviously we've got a power incoming of 0.4 watts already. NTC 1234. Cell delta 21 millivolt. But this battery, yeah, it's fairly low. It's probably at 10% maximum. We are just under 3.1 volts with all the cells. Min max charge. Overkill Solar. Pathfinder BMS. Gives us a lot of information here. Time to full, time to empty, state of health, charge under temperature, discharge under temperature count, and all the statistics. Okay, let's go to settings. What do we have? Pre-discharge configuration, balancer configuration, start 3.1 volts. Okay, can we change this to 3.45? Done. Yeah, then it prompts us up here. Click to write to BMS. Seems like it has accepted it. Okay, cool. We can change these parameters. Okay, charge over temperature, charge under temperature, discharge over under, cell over under voltage, charge over current 172, charge discharge over current negative 170. That is the discharge, short current, Charge overcurrent, discharge. Okay, this all can be set. And all right, that's pretty much it. Voltage calibration, current calibration, set idle current to 0. Yes, that's what we want to do. And now it shows 0. So there are a lot of questions I have now, because these are not many parameters. These are the standard, but we cannot set any charge termination voltage, for example, where the BMS resets to 100%. This all seems to be hardwired, or I'm not on the latest firmware version, which I cannot update either because the Wi-Fi does not connect. All right, give me 2 minutes here. I have to do a bit of a reading in the manual again and see how to set up the Wi-Fi. And then we have to determine if there's a newer firmware which actually allows us to change a bit more settings than only these basic ones here. All right, I'll be back after the pfft. So here in the manual it says, under Wi-Fi, the Pathfinder can connect to 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi networks. Credentials are entered via the built-in screen. The Wi-Fi connection is used to check Overkill Solar's GitHub for OTA updates, if enabled, and for sending MQTT messages to Home Assistant, if enabled. Wi-Fi status disconnected. Yeah, that's what I'm exactly seeing. And set SSID, I cannot see that part, and all the buttons are not working. I've tried different combinations as well. I don't know how to enter the Wi-Fi status here. It doesn't say anything in the manual. So this is now the third time that bit of frustration kicks in with either the manual or the BMS or a combination of both. And if I have to contact the manufacturer of this wonderful BMS here, Steve, it is already too late. So for providing a 46-page document and I cannot figure out how to connect it to Wi-Fi, I'm not going to contact the manufacturer for that. That's an absolute fail. So actually from the main screen you have to press the button to the right here to go across MOSFET control, BMS settings, UI settings. And under UI settings you go down to Wi-Fi setup. Press OK. Set up SSID. OK. Scanning for Wi-Fi. Set password. Oh, holy shit. Really? What? Connection fail? Why does it fail? Wi-Fi credentials rejected. Oh, jeez. Amazing. Okay, we try again. Connect. Rejected again. And this time I made 100% sure this is the correct password. 110%. It even says the password down there. Oh, you can't see that, but this is my Wi-Fi password for this Wi-Fi SSID. And it doesn't connect. Okay, frustration. Oh, now it's connected. Okay, without changing anything. Okay, it's connected now. Perfect. All good. Okay, we can go out of here, back. And now we should be able to go down. OTA fail. ESP had a begin fail. Maybe Wi-Fi has no internet. Oh my god. Alright. Wi-Fi. OTA updates. Always ask. Radio power. Wi-Fi setup. Connected. It says connected. And the green antenna light is flashing up there. So I guess that's a good sign. Ah, from here we need to go over. No, there's no. Hang on. Over the update, ready, update firmware 2 version, blah blah, but it's not. But before it said it's up to date, right? That's the up to date version here. Then it says, over the update, confirm. But obviously there is no newer version at the moment as this version 0.3. Okay, I've now disabled Wi-Fi and re-enabled it. See if this makes a difference. Connecting Wi-Fi. It's flashing green. I should turn off the light here, you can see better. Wow, it takes a long time to connect to the Wi-Fi. I mean, the antenna is just there. Okay, it now seems to be back on the network. I can actually ping it with a computer, but there's no web interface behind this IP address. Would be nice to have a web interface where we can change all the parameters without pulling out the mobile phone and connecting via Bluetooth and all this kind of stuff. But at the moment, that's not possible. So obviously, we don't have a newer version of this firmware here. So we are stuck with the 0.3. Now hang on. Here it says something on the other screen. Confirm. Over-the-air update ready. This is, God, jeez. We are setting up the Wi-Fi over here and then set up the over-the-air updates. But then we have to go all the way back and all the way down this path. Then all the way down to, I don't know, somewhere here. It doesn't even say here. But now we can actually update to 305 stable. Yes. Okay, firmware update. It is finally working. Okay, I think we are back in business, so we should be on a different version now. Yeah, here, 0.305 stable, August 1925. Nice. All right. Okay, let's go back in the Bluetooth app, Pathfinder BMS, and see if there are any changes. Settings. Start, balance voltage. So I'm still missing the setting where I can change when the BMS actually resets to 100%. Because I'm not going to recharge my battery to 3.5 volts. It is a 3.45 only. And I would like to set this as the 100% trigger voltage for the BMS when it resets to 100%. But this is not accessible. And they said this here in the manual actually, that the first firmware version would not have this option and the parameter cannot be changed. But now we are obviously on 0.305 and I cannot find this option. I'm not even sure if this whole flowchart here is still valid now with the new version. See, and it doesn't say for which firmware version this flowchart actually is. Well, it says here 0.31 and I'm on 0.305. So obviously this is a beta version. So Steve, if you don't mind, put a little note in here for what firmware version this flowchart is, and then if things change, you have to update this flowchart, obviously, because now it is a bit I don't know. So next hurdle is to get to the website. It's obviously overkillsolar.com. More is better. Welcome, Pathfinder BMS. So that's the correct website, has the correct logo. But when I go to it, it only shows me this stuff here. So it seems to be broken. Add miner. Unlock your account. Let me try this here in Google Chrome. Nah, it's the same. Well, then I probably don't need to try Firefox, right? No, same on the mobile phone with a different IP. Because I wanted to look up how much this BMS actually is, but I cannot reach the website. So Google says it costs around $230. So if I compare this to the JK BMS, this is a 200 amp BMS as well, including a 2 amp active balancer, which costs only $77, including free shipping. Or even the version 19 of the inverter BMS, 200 amps, 2 amp active balancer, communication board, and a 4.3-inch display, $120, including shipping. The JBD BMS, 200 amps, 8 to 21S, including UART, RS485 and CAN communication to your inverter, $81. And last and also least, the DALI BMS with 200 amps, 16S, under $70, including shipping. So I'm not sure what niche this Pathfinder BMS actually fits. I can totally understand that this BMS is a bit more expensive because it is developed in the US. Everything is a bit more expensive. Now they have got the tariffs as well, so everything is pushed up. But man, $230 for a BMS which cannot communicate with your inverter, which does only basic stuff. It's only a protection board. Some of the parameters I cannot even access yet because they are hardwired, like the reset to 100%, reset to 0%. It's not available, it's not there. The software is still very clunky for a stable version. I really don't want to see the beta version. And overall, for a new development of a BMS and then having to do all this stuff here, it is very hard to justify spending $230. Yes, it probably does some MQTT communication to Home Assistant. I haven't tried this yet. It was hard enough to set up the Wi-Fi. And really for me, it looks like a basic protection board only. Yes, it has this small display here, but what's the display worth if you put this into an RV or a boat or something and the BMS is with the batteries in a storage container somewhere and the display is not even visible then, yeah? How much more is a bigger display which can be connected to the BMS with a longer cable? We can have this somewhere over here and the BMS and the battery over there. Well, then you have to move the buttons as well. But can you not do everything via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or a computer connected to the BMS? Yeah, and remember, this is a new developed BMS. So all the other BMSs I've just shown you here are on the market for years, So if you develop a new BMS, would you not look around first to see what's on the market already? What do other companies, active balancing, app connection, computer connection, RS485, CAN communication, inverter control? This is all not available here. Now the website is down, so I can't even look up things. Yeah, this flowchart does not seem to match the newer firmware. And despite having 46 pages of documentation, it is still a bit lacking of more explanation how Wi-Fi setup works and how to do the online firmware updates. And also, why this comment in the documentation that everything causes cancer in California? I mean, are you not all Americans and working together or so? Or are you now two different parties and fighting each other like your leader wants you to do? I don't know. If this comment was just a joke, it didn't fire. And you're also saying in this document that leaded solder is better. So it is much nicer if the Pathfinder BMS would be produced with solder without lead. That would be something I would put in the documentation. And they are teasing this BMS here for probably almost a year. And now it's out. You can actually buy it if the website works. And I think it has some really good features, so really good ideas and everything, like the balanced test board here with a green LED, a direct USB-C connection, built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. But are we there yet? I don't think so. And I was so looking forward to testing this BMS here, having a look at all these features with Wi-Fi connection, over-the-air updates, MQTT to Home Assistant, this little screen here, the Bluetooth app. Maybe we have to wait a couple of more firmware versions until this is actually ready and also worth $230. So I really don't want to shed any bad light on this BMS here from our friends from Overkill Solar. They have made amazing conversions of the JBD BMS in the past. And I'm still using the 100 amp Overkill Solar BMS in the top shelf battery here without any issues. In fact, it is the BMS with the best state of charge calculation of all the other BMSs I ever tested. But here, with the Pathfinder BMS, I'm a bit lost. So I'll definitely keep an eye on this BMS here and see what the further development is. And if there are any major updates, breakthroughs, improvements, new features, I'll definitely let you know. And I'm more than happy to do a new video then. Yeah, guys, as always, I'll link this all down below. You can actually buy this BMS now from Overkill. You can also have a look at the documentation at these 46 pages first and see what you think about it. I'm really keen about your feedback. Have you already bought this BMS? What is the purpose? What do you use it for? And why did you choose the Pathfinder BMS over a DALI, a JBD, a JK? What made the Pathfinder BMS from Overkill Solar outstanding in comparison to all the other BMSs? All right, my friends, I think so far this video today about the Pathfinder BMS from Overkill Solar. So hopefully this BMS improves in the future and we can revisit it. And yeah, well guys, that's it for today. As always, guys, thank you very much for all your I'm not up to date. Thank you very much for all your amazing support here on the channel, for buying me a beer, a smoothie, a coffee, becoming a channel member. You are amazing. Thank you very much. Leave a nice comment, hit the like button, and we will see us again in the next video when we do something not Pathfinder related, I guess. Guys, until then, you stay charged, stay safe, and thanks again for watching. See you then. Bye bye.